Okay, so we're going to talk about category 3, and we're going to talk about writing and solving linear equations. We're going to open up to this part of our review book, and we're going to review the different ways that you can write an equation of a line. So slope-intercept forms y equals mx plus b, and you can get the slope, and you can also tell what the y-intercept is just by looking at the equation. We have point slope form, which is y minus y equals the slope times x minus an x value. And if you look at it like this, you can see an ordered pair that's not the y-intercept and then the slope. And then you also have a third form, standard form, and what you need to do if you see this format is you just need to make it, turn it into y equals mx plus b. You just need to rearrange it to make it y equals so that you can put it in your calculator. So what we have here in example 1 is we have a line with a slope of -1/2, passes through the point -4 or 5. Well, if you see here, they've given us the slope already. They told us that m is equal to a -1/2. And then they've given us an ordered pair of -4, 5. So I'm going to go ahead and label these our ordered pairs. -4, 5. So they've given us an x and a y value. So what I'm going to do first is, since they've given me a point and a slope, I'm going to go ahead and plug that into our equation here for point slope, because that's why it's called point slope format, because those are the things that you can identify, or that you can write this equation if you have a point and a slope. So we're going to plug in a 5 where y is, so we're going to have y minus 5 equals, now I'm going to plug in my slope. My slope is a -1/2. And now I'm going to have my parentheses, x minus, and now I'm going to plug in my x value, which is a -4. So x minus a -4 is really going to change that to x plus 4. And so there would be my point slope format. And so what I'm going to do to make it y equals mx plus b is I'm just going to distribute, and I'm going to do a little bit of math. So I'm going to have a -1/2 x, because -1/2 times x is -1/2. And then I want to figure out what -1/2 is times 4. So I'm going to get my calculator, and I'm going to type in -1/2 times 4, and that gives me a -2. So I'm going to say -2. And then I'm going to bring down y minus 5, because I didn't do any math before the equal sign. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that -5 over. Well, if it's already being subtracted, I'm going to move it by adding 5 to both sides. And when I add 5 to both sides, I'm going to get y equals -1/2 x. And then -2 is what I started with, and now I'm adding 5 to that, and so I'm going to get 3. And to show it's positive, I'm going to put the addition sign. So my slope-intercept form is going to be y equals -1/2 x plus 3. And if I want to check, my slope should match the slope that was the slope in the point slope format. And if I want to go to y equals and check my math, I can type in -1/2 x plus 3, and I can go to my table and make sure that the point -4, 5 shows up in my table, because these are all whole number x value order pairs that are on that graph line. And you can see -4, 5 does show up in my table, so I know I got the correct equation. So now we're going to look at example number 2. I've got a line with a y-intercept of -2. So that tells me if it's a y-intercept of -2, that means it's 0, -2. And then I also have the point -3, -7. Well, this time they didn't give me the slope. So now I actually have to do some work. And I can easily find the slope by using the slope formula. So I'm going to do y minus y. So I'm going to start with -2 minus -7. Now I want to see the -7 too, because that subtraction sign in the slope formula is not the negative on the second y value. And now I'm going to plug in an x value. Since I used -2 first for my first y, I have to use its pair for x, which is 0, minus, and then I'm going to plug in -3. And again, I want to see the -3. The subtraction sign is not the negative on the 3. So now I'm going to do some math in my calculator, and I'm going to type this all in at once. So I'm going to type the fraction bar in, and I'm going to do -2 minus -7 for my numerator, and then I'm going to do 0 minus -3 for my denominator, and it's going to do the subtraction in the numerator and denominator and simplify the fraction for me. And so my slope is equal to 5, thirds. And since I have the y-intercept of -2, I have my b value and I have my m, I can write my slope-intercept. It's going to be y equals, I'm going to have 5/3 for my slope, x, and since my y-intercept is negative, it's going to be -2. So there's my graph. And now if I want to use point-slope form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say y minus, and now I need a y value. So I don't want to use the y-intercept point, okay? I want to pick another value besides that. So I'm going to use the ordered pair that they gave me, and I'm going to plug in -7, because that's the y value, equals, now I need my slope, 5/3, parentheses, x minus, and then I need an x value, and my x value is going to be -3. Okay, so now I want to look to see, do I have any minus negatives? And I do right here, so that's going to change to +7, and then this is going to change to +3. So that would be my point slope format using the point, -3, and -7.